What if attraction wasn't about looks, money, or charm, but about power, mystery, and control? The truth is, some men captivate without saying much at all. These are not nice guys. These are strategic thinkers. In this video, we explore 5 Machiavellian rules of attraction: dark, effective, and dangerously irresistible. A man who is emotionally detached holds a certain power that's difficult to ignore. It's not that he doesn't feel, he simply doesn't let his emotions govern his actions. While most people give themselves away too easily, revealing every thought, fear, and longing, the emotionally detached man remains calm, composed, and unreadable. And in a world where emotional volatility is common, this makes him stand out like a shadow in the light. Women are deeply intuitive, often sensing emotional shifts and vulnerabilities even when nothing is said. When a man doesn't provide those signals, when he's centered, unmoved, and self-contained, it creates a kind of psychological vacuum, and nature abhors a vacuum. She begins to wonder what he's thinking. Why doesn't he seem affected? Why doesn't he chase like the others? And that curiosity quickly turns into fascination. It's not about being cold or cruel. It's about being in control of yourself. A man who is emotionally detached sends one message loud and clear: I don't need you, I choose you. That distinction is magnetic. Most people confuse detachment with indifference, but the difference is subtle and important. Indifference is lazy and unattractive. It shows a lack of passion or depth. Detachment, on the other hand, is strategic. It means you have emotions, but you don't act out of them impulsively. You know when to show affection and when to pull back. You know how to stay calm when others get heated. You know that maintaining your inner peace is more important than proving a point or chasing validation. And that energy, of a man who owns himself, is intoxicating to a woman. She starts investing more, wondering how to earn your attention, working to understand your silence, trying to decode your intentions. Without realizing it, she becomes emotionally attached to the very man who remains emotionally untouchable. That's the paradox and the power of emotional detachment. It makes her want to give more just to feel something from you. And when you do give something, just a glance, a smile, a subtle compliment, it feels 10 times more rewarding because of how rare it is. That's how attraction is built, not through excess, but through scarcity and control. When you stop chasing, everything changes. Most men are conditioned to believe that effort equals reward in relationships, that the more you give, the more you'll be appreciated. But the Machiavellian man understands a deeper truth. People don't value what's handed to them. They value what they have to earn. When a woman senses that a man is too eager, too available, or too fixated on winning her over, her attraction begins to drop. Why? Because deep down, she starts to question his value. If he's willing to give so much so easily, what does that say about how he sees himself? True high-value men don't chase, they attract. And that's exactly what the Machiavellian man does. He builds his life in such a way that he becomes the prize. He works on his mind, his body, his business, his goals. His attention is not scattered, it's directed with purpose. So when a woman enters his life, she doesn't feel like she's being pursued. She feels like she's being invited into something greater, something rare, something she doesn't want to miss out on. And that fear of missing out is a powerful psychological trigger. It activates her desire to prove herself worthy of him, to be the one he chooses. The beauty of this approach is that it flips the traditional dynamic on its head. Instead of spending energy trying to impress her, he becomes someone she wants to impress. Instead of seeking her validation, he becomes the validation. This isn't arrogance, it's magnetism. It's knowing your worth so clearly that others feel it the moment they're around you. And here's the secret. When you don't chase, she starts to wonder why. She questions what makes you different. She starts observing you more closely, replaying interactions in her mind, seeking little signs of interest. This creates a loop of anticipation and uncertainty, a psychological cocktail that intensifies attraction. She can't help but think, what does he really think of me? Am I special to him? Why isn't he acting like the others? And now she's emotionally invested. She's chasing the answer. And that chase, when led by her, is a powerful reversal. It puts you in the position of power not by force, but by design. You've created an emotional landscape where she desires your approval more than you seek hers. And that, in the Machiavellian game of attraction, is how kings are made. Control isn't about domination, it's about direction. In the game of attraction, the man who controls the frame controls the reality. He becomes the reference point, the standard, the emotional compass. While most people react to what's happening around them, the Machiavellian man creates what's happening. He sets the tone, the pace, the mood. And in doing so, he becomes the unshakable center in a world full of chaos. Controlling the frame begins with mindset. The Machiavellian man doesn't enter a conversation trying to fit in or win approval. He enters as if the world already revolves around him. Not because he's arrogant, but because he understands something crucial. People naturally follow the energy of certainty. Most people are uncertain, doubtful, or hesitant. And when they meet someone with quiet confidence and a grounded presence, they subconsciously defer to that person's reality. In relationships and attraction, this plays out in subtle but powerful ways. When a woman asks a question, he doesn't just answer, he redirects. When she tests his confidence, he doesn't defend himself. He laughs it off or turns the tension into playful banter. When emotions rise, he doesn't get pulled into the chaos. He remains calm, like a rock in the storm. That calmness becomes addictive. It feels safe, strong, and rare. She begins to look to him for emotional cues. Is everything okay? Is he upset? Is he amused? Because he has become the one who defines the moment. This is the essence of frame control, being the emotional leader. He decides when things are playful and when they are serious. He decides when silence is comfortable and when it's intimate. He decides how far things go, not because he forces them, but because he subtly influences them through tone, body language, and unspoken authority. And here's where it becomes dangerously effective. When a man masters frame control, he can shift a woman's entire mood without saying much at all. A simple glance, a well-timed pause, or a confident smirk can change everything. Why? Because he's not reacting. He's guiding. He's not asking for permission. He's moving forward as if he already has it. This confidence, this sense of emotional ownership, activates something primal in the female psyche. It communicates, I can handle pressure. I can lead. I won't be shaken. And women, whether consciously or unconsciously, are drawn to that. Not because they want to be controlled in a negative sense, but because they want to relax into someone else's certainty. In a world full of indecisive, unsure men, the one who moves with calm authority stands out like fire in the dark. But make no mistake, frame control is not loud. It doesn't yell, brag, or boast. In fact, those who try to force the frame through arrogance or aggression often lose it just as quickly. Real frame control is subtle, even invisible. It's in the way a man holds eye contact without flinching. It's in the way he pauses before responding. It's in the way he listens fully before speaking, as if his time is the one being honored. Over time, this energy shapes the entire dynamic. The woman begins to adapt to his world, rather than trying to pull him into hers. His preferences start to matter more. His approval becomes a silent reward. His silence becomes powerful, And because he never over-explains, never justifies, and never chases, she starts to value everything he gives. By controlling the frame, he controls the emotional experience. And in relationships, emotions are everything. If she feels good around him, safe, intrigued, challenged, and seen, she'll keep coming back. But if she feels that he is constantly trying to earn her or follow her lead, she'll lose respect without even knowing why. This is why Machiavellian men don't argue over minor things, don't try to win pointless debates, and don't get emotionally rattled. They understand that maintaining frame is far more powerful than winning an argument. Once you control the feeling of the interaction, everything else, attraction, connection, even loyalty, falls into place. The Machiavellian man understands that the greatest power often lies in what's not said. While others speak to fill the silence, he uses silence as a tool. While others try to impress with loud gestures, he masters the art of subtlety, planting seeds in a woman's mind that grow long after the conversation ends. Subtlety is the language of the powerful. It is the ability to influence without appearing forceful, to attract without seeming desperate, and to command attention without begging for it. Where most men fail is in overcompensating. They believe that to win a woman's interest, they must be loud, flashy, or endlessly expressive. They throw compliments, jokes, and stories like confetti, hoping that one will stick. But this kind of behavior is transparent. It reeks of effort. And effort in the wrong form signals low value. Because if a man truly had options, power, and confidence, why would he try so hard? The Machiavellian man takes the opposite approach. He lets his presence do the talking. His compliments, when given, are rare and precise. Instead of saying, "You're so beautiful," like every other man, he might simply glance at her, smile slightly, and say, "You're dangerous." That one line, vague and loaded, lingers in her mind. It creates curiosity, sparks imagination, and invites interpretation. Was it a warning, a compliment, a challenge? She doesn't know, but now she's thinking about him. This is the power of subtlety. It turns attraction into a psychological puzzle. It keeps her engaged, not through flashy performance, but through quiet suggestion. The Machiavellian man knows that a woman's imagination is one of the most potent tools of attraction. If you can make her think about you, wonder about your intentions, analyze your every move, you've already won. Subtlety also applies to body language. He doesn't lean in eagerly. He leans back, relaxed, signaling that he's in no rush to prove himself. His eye contact is steady but not aggressive, like a man who has seen much and is still unmoved. He doesn't fidget, doesn't overreact, and doesn't explain himself unless absolutely necessary. Every movement is deliberate. Every word is chosen with care. When he does speak, he leaves space. He pauses. He allows silence to fill the air, not awkwardly, but confidently. Most people fear silence in conversation, interpreting it as a lack of connection. But the Machiavellian man understands that silence creates tension. And tension, when used correctly, creates desire. A well-timed pause after a meaningful statement can make her lean in, hang on your words, or wonder what's going through your mind. Even in flirting, he avoids being overt. Instead of bombarding her with compliments or making obvious advances, he might tease her lightly, play with double meanings, or throw in a dry, under-the-radar remark that forces her to stop and think. Maybe she smiles a few seconds later, realizing the depth behind his words. Maybe she doesn't even catch it at first, but finds herself replaying it later. That's the goal, to be unforgettable without being obvious. The Machiavellian man understands something critical. When you're too obvious, you eliminate mystery. And without mystery, there's no depth of attraction. Subtlety keeps the door open. It says, There's more to me, but you'll have to earn it. And that challenge, that emotional ambiguity, is deeply seductive. He never gives full emotional closure. He might give her a meaningful compliment, then immediately change the subject. He might show affection, then disappear for a while. Not out of cruelty, but to allow space. Space for her to wonder, space for her to desire, space for her to invest. That unpredictability becomes addictive. It leaves her chasing emotional highs, and only he knows when or if he'll give her another. But here's what separates subtlety from manipulation. The Machiavellian man still has integrity. He doesn't lie, deceive, or fake confidence. He simply understands the value of restraint. He knows that by revealing less, he is seen as more. That by speaking less, his words carry weight. That by giving less attention, he creates more demand. This is how true attraction is built, not through constant effort, but through strategic restraint. Not through endless talking, but through meaningful pauses. Not through dramatic gestures, but through subtle influence. When a man learns to communicate through nuance, silence, and presence, he steps into a level of power that most never reach. And women feel it. They might not be able to explain it, but they sense it. That's something different, something intriguing, something just out of reach. And that's the point. Because the moment she feels like she fully understands you, the mystery dies. But as long as there's something left to discover, she'll keep coming back, trying to unlock the puzzle that is you. Mystery is a powerful force. It's what keeps people coming back to unfinished books, unsolved riddles, and unread messages. And when it comes to human attraction, mystery can be more seductive than beauty, charm, or even love. The Machiavellian man knows this, and he wields it like a blade. He never reveals his full hand, never gives everything away, because he understands a truth that most overlook. The moment you become completely known, you become predictable. And the moment you're predictable, you lose power. In the early stages of attraction, most men fall into the same trap. They overdisclose. They try to be authentic by laying everything on the table too soon. Their past relationships, their dreams, their fears, their intentions. They think that openness will create intimacy. But in reality, it often creates boredom. Not because these things aren't meaningful, but because they're offered without being earned. And when something is too easily given, it's rarely respected. The Machiavellian man, however, reveals himself in layers. Just enough to spark curiosity, but never enough to remove all uncertainty. He might share a story that hints at his depth, but leave out the ending. He might speak of his goals, but never say exactly what drives him. He might open up in a moment of vulnerability, only to become composed and unreadable again moments later. This inconsistency is not confusion, it's design. He is crafting an experience that is emotionally engaging and intellectually addictive. When a woman doesn't know exactly what you're thinking, she fills in the gaps. She begins to project, to imagine who you are, what you want, and why you're holding back. And often, the fantasy she creates in her mind is far more powerful than any reality you could give her. This is where true power lies, not in what you say, but in what you leave unsaid. Not in what you show, but in what you conceal. There's a psychological phenomenon at play here called the zygarnic effect. It refers to how people remember incomplete tasks better than completed ones. When something is left unfinished, it lingers in the mind. It creates a sense of emotional tension, a need for closure. The Machiavellian man uses this to his advantage. He becomes an incomplete task, a question mark, an enigma, and that emotional tension keeps her invested. But this goes beyond just dating or seduction. The principle applies to leadership, influence, and status. People are drawn to those who remain elusive. the celebrity who rarely gives interviews, the leader who speaks less but commands more, the man in the room who says nothing but whose presence is felt by everyone. These people hold power not because they are loud, but because they are unknown. And the unknown always holds potential. When you never reveal your full hand, you remain in control. You decide what parts of yourself are seen and when. You create a sense of progression. Each new interaction feels like peeling back a layer of a deeper story. And this pacing creates emotional momentum. It builds anticipation. It gives people something to chase. This is the opposite of emotional neediness. The Machiavellian man doesn't overshare because he doesn't need to be understood by everyone. He doesn't seek validation in exposure. He finds power in privacy. Not because he's hiding, but because he values his inner world too much to throw it around carelessly. He understands that mystery is a luxury, and only men with true self-worth can afford to maintain it. And what's more, mystery keeps you unpredictable. When a woman can't figure out how you'll respond, when she doesn't know what move you'll make next, she stays alert, emotionally engaged. She pays closer attention. She watches your tone, your expressions, your silences. You become the center of her focus, not because you demand it, but because she can't look away. This unpredictability also keeps her from getting too comfortable. In most relationships, once the dynamic becomes predictable, attraction begins to fade. But when you maintain a degree of mystery, when she never fully feels like she has you, it keeps the spark alive. She keeps wondering, keeps chasing, keeps trying to figure you out, and in that pursuit, she becomes emotionally entangled. But let's be clear. Mystery should never be used as a mask for emptiness. You still need substance. You still need depth, vision, confidence, and strength. But you reveal those things like a great novelist reveals a plot, not all at once, but with timing and precision. The Machiavellian man never dumps his story on someone. He lets her earn it, piece by piece. He makes her feel like each layer she discovers is a reward, a privilege, a secret she now gets to keep. And the beauty of this approach is that it protects your value. It ensures that only those who are truly invested get to see the real you. It filters out the superficial. It separates the curious from the committed. Because the deeper a woman falls into the mystery of you, the more emotionally connected she becomes. Not to what she knows, but to what she still wants to know. In the end, the man who never reveals his full hand becomes more than just a lover or a partner. He becomes an obsession, a riddle she can't stop thinking about, a story she has to finish, a fire she can't put out. And that, above all, is the Machiavellian edge, to remain unforgettable, not by overwhelming her with who you are, but by making her want to find out.